I am 88 years old. My husband is gone. My children are gone. My house that used to overflow with family now holds only me. And I need you to hear this. These have been some of the best years of my life. People here alone and think forgotten. They think sad. They look at an old woman in an empty house and see tragedy. But they're wrong. I learned something in these quiet rooms that I wish I'd known 60 years ago. Let me tell you what living alone actually taught me. My name is Dolores Mabry. People call me Dee. I am 88 years old. I have lived alone for 8 years now, and I need you to hear me when I tell you these have been some of the best years of my life. Now I know how that sounds. An old woman in a house by herself, talking about how good she's got it. People here alone and they think sad. They think forgotten. They think, Lord, somebody check on her. But that's not my story. Let me tell you what my house used to sound like. 4 children, my mother Lucille living with us for 12 years before she passed. Nieces and nephews in and out. Neighborhood kids who came for dinner and just stayed. That kitchen never stopped. Baked chicken, greens, cornbread. I could make a meal stretch for whoever showed up. And somebody always showed up. My husband Walter and I were married 52 years. He passed in 2014. My baby girl moved out 2 years after that. And then one evening I stood in my kitchen, and you know what I heard? The refrigerator. Humming. That was it. Just the hum. I won't lie to you. I was scared. They call it empty nest depression, and it's real, even when you're 80 years old. Even when you thought you were ready. People assumed I'd wither. They watched me like I was a plant somebody forgot to water, but I didn't wither. I made a choice. I decided that alone and lonely were not the same thing, and I got to work. Here are 5 things I learned about living alone without losing yourself. My mother Lucille taught me this before I had words for it. She was married to my father for 37 years, and I remember when I was maybe 12 or 13, sitting in her kitchen watching her wash dishes. The house was full. Daddy was in the living room. My brothers were running through. And Mama looked at me and said, "Child, I've been lonely in a room full of people." I didn't understand it then, but I watched her. I watched how Daddy never asked her about her day, never looked up when she walked in. She could have been a piece of furniture, surrounded by family, invisible. That's loneliness. That's the kind that eats you from inside. Now look at me. I live alone, but I talk to my play sister Vernita 3 times a week. I've got my supper club, 6 women, once a month, 41 years running. I've got my church circle. I've got people who know my name, who know when something's wrong, who notice if I'm not myself. Lonely is when nobody knows your name. Alone is when you finally get to hear yourself think. My mornings now, I wake up, I make my coffee, I sit with my blessings book. That's a journal I've kept since 1987. I write one good thing before my feet touch the floor. 19 volumes so far. Nobody's asking me for anything. Nobody needs me to fix breakfast or find their keys or settle an argument. That's not loneliness. That's rest. That's peace. But here's the thing. Solitude only works if you build something outside of it. That's tip number 2. Let me tell you about Vernita. Vernita Hayes, my play sister. We met in 1961, back in Baton Rouge before I moved to Houston. We raised our children together. Our husbands, Earl and Walter, used to fish together every Saturday. They could get away with it. We've been in each other's lives for 63 years now. 2014 was a hard year. Walter passed in March. Earl passed in November. 8 months, same year. I lost my husband, and Vernita lost hers. Now I grieved. Lord knows I grieved, but I kept moving. I stayed in my church. I kept my supper club. I answered the phone when people called. Vernita didn't. She stopped coming to church first. Then she stopped answering calls. Then she stopped answering the door. I'd drive by her house and the curtains would be closed in the middle of the day. I got worried, real worried. Finally, I used the key she'd given me 30 years before, let myself in, and I found her sitting in Earl's recliner, in the dark, curtains pulled, Television off. I said, Vernita, how long has it been since you talked to somebody? She looked at me, and she said, 11 days. 11 days. She hadn't spoken to another human being in 11 days. I watched her mind start to slip after that. The doctor said isolation does that, something about the brain needing other people to stay sharp. But I didn't need a doctor to tell me what I could see with my own eyes. I wouldn't let her go. Started picking her up every Wednesday and every Sunday. Brought her back to supper club. Sat with her when she didn't want to talk. Forced her back into circulation even when she fought me on it. She's doing better now. Not great, but better. Last month she grabbed my hand and said, Dee, you saved my life. I told her, no, I just reminded you that you had one. Your village isn't just for the good times. It's for the days when you forget why you're here. Build it now, before you need it. Building your village is one thing, but you have to stay in it. That takes practice. Let me tell you about Miss Ora Lee Patterson. Miss Ora Lee is 93 years old, lives 2 doors down from me, doesn't have family in town anymore. Her daughter passed. Her son lives in California. It's just her in that house. Every single morning after I finish my devotion, I walk over to Miss Ora Lee's house. 3 doors. Takes me about 2 minutes. I knock 3 times. She opens the door. Sometimes we talk for 5 minutes. Sometimes we sit on her porch for an hour. But every day we see each other's faces. People think I'm doing it for her, being neighborly, being Christian, but I'm doing it for me too. That walk gets me out of my house. That knock keeps me accountable. If I didn't have somewhere to be, I might stay in my robe until noon. I might let days blur together. Miss Ora Lee is checking on me as much as I'm checking on her. We just don't say it out loud. Social fitness. That's what I call it, like physical fitness. You have to practice it or you lose it. A body at rest wants to stay at rest. Same with a soul. I keep a calendar. Church on Sunday. Supper club once a month. Phone calls to my 3 closest friends every Sunday night. Miss Ora Lee every morning. I treat it like a doctor's appointment. Because it is. Now some people hear all this and they say, Dee, you're still running around doing for everybody else. When do you rest? And that's fair, because tip number 4 might surprise you. Let go of the weight you've been carrying. I cooked dinner for my family every single night for over 50 years. Every night. When Walter was alive. When I was working full-time at Herman Hospital. When I was tired down to my bones. When I had nothing left, I still cooked. Because that's what we did. That's what our mothers did. Nobody asked if we wanted to. Nobody asked if we were exhausted. We just did it. After Walter passed, after the house emptied out, I realized something. I didn't have to cook every night anymore. I could eat cereal for dinner if I wanted. I could order food. I could eat a sandwich over the sink at 4 in the afternoon and call that dinner. And you know what? My doctor told me my blood pressure dropped. I said, Doc, I stopped cooking 7 nights a week. He laughed, but I wasn't joking. The research is real. When women stop carrying all that domestic labor, our bodies relax. All those years of standing over that stove, timing everything so it came out right, cleaning up after everybody, that takes a toll we don't even see until we put it down. I spent 60 years making sure everybody else was fed. Now I eat what I want, when I want, standing over the sink if I feel like it. And child, that's freedom. Strong black women spend their whole lives serving. There's no shame in putting the serving spoon down. Which brings me to tip number 5. And this one is personal. After Walter died, my daughter Brenda came to me with a plan. She wanted me to move in with her family. Her and her husband, their 2 teenagers, the dog. Full house, plenty of room. She sat at my kitchen table, this same table I'm sitting at now, and she said, Mama, you're 80 years old. You shouldn't be by yourself. She meant well. I know she did. She was thinking about what old people need. Company, family, someone to watch over them. But I looked at my daughter and I said, Baby, I've been by myself in a house full of people. This is different. She didn't understand. Not then, but I knew. I had spent 60 years on someone else's schedule, Walter's schedule, my children's schedules, my job's schedule, my mother's schedule when she was sick. 60 years of waking up and asking, What does everybody else need today? I had never, not once in my entire life, woken up and thought, what do I want to do today? Not once. Living alone gave me that. I read when I want to read. I pray when I want to pray. I watch my shows without anybody asking me to change the channel. I go to bed at 8 o'clock if I feel like it. I stay up until midnight if I feel like that instead. After decades of service, owning your time isn't selfish, it's the reward. This is my harvest season. I planted for 60 years. Now I get to eat. I'm sitting in my kitchen right now. Morning light coming through the window. My blessings book is open. My coffee is warm. The house is quiet, and the quiet is mine. If you're a woman listening to this, maybe you've spent your whole life taking care of everybody else. Maybe the house is getting quiet. Maybe you're scared of what comes next. I'm here to tell you, it doesn't have to be empty. It can be full in a different way, a quieter way, a way that's finally yours. Know the difference between lonely and alone. Build your village before you need it. Stay in circulation. Let go of what wore you out, and own your time. You earned it. The Lord gave me 88 years. I'm not going to spend the ones I've got left apologizing for enjoying them. If this meant something to you, share it with a woman who needs to hear it. We've got to look out for each other. That's what the village is for.